Oh, good morning and welcome to your daily game face. I'm Dr. Kim Lannon, and
What are you going on about over there?
I'm going right at you.
Okay.
This morning, and you have so many technical difficulties going on. Good morning to my listeners, but I'm ready to throw something.
It's been all week, by the way. It's not just this morning.
Lou.
I think Mercury's in retrograde.
Oh, God. Mercury's in retrograde. Well, is that the excuse? Oh my God. All right. Well, the listeners are walking in on the debacle that I believe is going on.
It's only a debacle because you bring it out behind the curtain. There's a curtain on shows.
No,
you can leave stuff behind the curtain.
Needs to be exposed. The little green man the little man behind the green curtain in The Wizard of Oz needed to be exposed for who he was.
Really?
Yes.
Were any of the principals better because?
Well, she got to go home in her psychosis.
Was that good? Where would you have rather have lived? In Oz or in Kansas in 1920 or whenever the hell that was? Did you see the landscape in Kansas in The Wizard of Oz?
Or the tornado-ridden... Well, I would have liked to have the ruby slippers.
And Kansas was in black and white. And Oz was
it
in
was
color.
sepia. Let's get it
sepia,
right.
okay,
It was sepia at one point. I would have liked to live in Oz.
Yeah.
But that's in La La Land, which is, which was a good movie, by the way. But I'm coming back. Don't deflect. We're coming back to...
La La Land was... yeah.
Oh, okay. So, Louis Contrary
Bad
this
end.
morning. What did you say?
Bad end.
Oh, well,
La La Land, the end was awful.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm not really sorry. So, listen.
Yes.
If I'm crooked on the screen, it's Lou's fault today.
You're not crooked. You're like...
Because Lou is having technical difficulties of placement. I'm going to rat you right out because I'm in a mood this morning as well. So
I've just tried to center you up like 8 times and couldn't quite do it.
I don't know why. It's not me.
It's not you. I said it wasn't you.
But I try to help you.
No, you didn't. You just berated me for how many attempts it took me.
I was trying to help you. You weren't on point this morning. And you're torturing me.
And you gave me extra time, too, which is...
I did. And I was
usually
on
I only
time.
have like 10 seconds to get you lined up.
Oh, see, and there it is. There is the smackdown.
Yep.
And this is why the curtain is down, because I get this from you. This is good, though. But you're torturing me.
I debate for a living, so I've gotten pretty good at it.
So this morning we were talking about the plovers on Plum Island and how much they agitate you.
Now, I'm going to get in trouble for this.
Well, they don't agitate you. I shouldn't get you in trouble for that. They don't agitate you.
No, they do agitate me. It's worse than that.
I was trying to help you.
It's worse than that. Would the world be that much worse off without piping plovers?
You know what? You're talking to an animal activist lover here, so that would be the wrong thing to say to me because no. But
and is Plum Island the only beach on the planet where the piping plovers breed? Do we have to lose the entire beach until August for these piping plovers?
Okay, well, so for people that don't live in Massachusetts and don't understand the piping plover predicament, say that 5 times fast, the piping plovers, which is a very beautiful bird and aggressive when they have babies, as we were discussing, because they will attack you.
They'll strafe you.
I love that word, strafe.
Yeah.
They shut down, what is Plum Island? That reservation's got to be like 7 miles long, right?
I believe it's pretty close to 7, maybe even a little more.
Yeah, because that's the 20-mile hikes I go on to find the stupid snowy owl that I love. But the very large section of that beach, much to our chagrin, has been since April 1st shut down.
Until August.
Until August, which I didn't realize was until August because I was there again this weekend, and I did see piping plovers, but they weren't on the side that's the protected side. So we were just laughing about.
They were across the refuge road.
They were across the refuge road, and I giggle and I said that too. It's like when you put up, the deer crossing sign and the moose crossing signs. One of the funniest podcast or radio shows I'd ever heard was when a lady called in was like, "Can you just have the sign? Like, can't they just stay in the crossing signs?" And the radio host is like, "What?" Because they don't know what the sign says.
I get it worse than that.
They fly wherever they want to, and so they shut down the beach.
I get it worse than that. And someone had said on the moose crossing, I forget whether it was a moose or a deer crossing a sign. Yeah. Can they get the deer to cross at this intersection instead of here?
That's what it was. It was like, can they get them to cross over here like they should know? Read the sign and come over here. Yeah. Right. So this is part of the dilemma of the Parker Reservation and
Yeah.
the Plum Island beautiful beach area that has the piping plover predicament, gets all the sand dunes, they get the whole beach,
Yeah.
and then you get this little section of the beach to pack in like a bajillion people on. And I didn't realize
Yeah,
that
it's
it
got
was
10 parking spots. And
I know. I know. And usually you got this long stretch of area where you can go and park, and now you will not be able to do that. And it kind of shuts down. But it preserves the beach, which is nice.
Yeah.
Because then you can't have all the pollution, because that's one of the nicest beaches around, I think.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have all the junk that people
But the
just
beach is
unload on
preserved
everything.
naturally by the fact you have to pay to get on it, which limits people.
Well, that's a different... Okay. That's a different story.
Unlike the rest of the beaches on Plum Island.
Okay.
But it's like, really, the whole island? What is
So
the
Lou
piping
lives-
plover
so-
role in the
so
ecosystem?
Lou lives there, so this
Yeah.
really irks him about the
It
piping
does,
plover.
'cause-
But they're beautiful, and it preserves the ecosystem in some ways that I have no idea, because I'd have to research that. But I'm sure it has some very important ecological, environmental.
What species are they controlling, or what species are they enhancing?
Probably bugs, or something.
It's certainly not greenheads. If the piping plovers ate greenheads, I'd be all for it.
Hey, if there was something that would eat the greenheads, that would be great. Oh, so there's the other downside of Plum Island.
Yeah.
Is that Plum Island should be shut down till August, because essentially after June 15th,
Well, that's only a month. That's July to August.
I think June 15th on, you have the incredible flying terrorists.
And they are,
flies.
yes, and I get laughed at all the time, but they are lunar cycles.
Oh my God, they're crazy.
They hatch on on the moon cycle, and,
And
they go away on the moon cycle.
Exactly. And it's crazy. And they're brutal, and they attack you, and not 1 ounce of bug spray will stop them.
Nope.
And they will bite you, and you will swell up like a balloon.
Yep.
And so you stay away from your beach for that whole time.
Yes, by all means, stay away from Plum Island Beach.
See,
The greenheads are out from April till Labor Day. Stay away from the beach.
Lou would like to be a hermit and would like no one to be around him.
No, it's not that, but there were certain benefits to COVID last year.
Oh my God. No, because you were complaining last year about people yelling at you.
Oh, that's true. They were.
So
yeah.
don't forget that it wasn't all peaches and cream.
And people telling us that the ocean was a COVID spreader.
Yes,
Yeah.
I remember this.
Yeah.
So, and then the other thing is I did not bring my headphones in this week, so I have to say, huh, what, to you 75 times, because I
Sorry.
forgot.
Next week.
Maybe, if I remember, and if you ping me to tell me. And so for my listener that likes to know what I'm drinking in Florida, my friend in Florida, today is a Dunkin' Donuts. There's my plug for Dunkin'
Yes.
Donuts, who does not sponsor me. Dunkin' Donuts, coconut, 1 Splenda, 1 splash of skim milk, medium iced.
Couldn't they give you like a free drink
They should.
on Wednesdays?
I would be a good promo for them.
Yep.
But last week, very interesting, I had a listener who caught on to the fact that Dunkin' Donuts does not make mocha marshmallow, whatever I had, mocha macadamia marshmallow, whatever I had
You
last
were
week.
dishonest last week?
No,
Okay.
no.
Okay.
But I had used the Dunkin' Donuts cup and made, now I'm going to out where it's from. I had made my own at home, and it's Green Mountain Coffee, and it's the special limited edition of the mocha macadamia marshmallow.
Wow.
And I had made it and put it in that, and they saw the Dunkin' Donuts cup, and they're like, they don't have that there. And I was like, that's because I made it at home. I would not be dishonest. How dare you?
I'm sorry, that falls under it falls under the category
dare
at
you?
least of misleading, if not dishonest.
Nobody that can't see, they were just, because they saw the cup. Oh.
People got in their cars as a result of the show and went to Dunkin' Donuts looking for the
Yes,
mocha
I'm
coconut
sure that's
chocolate
what they
almond,
did.
whatever it was.
Well, they could have gotten a matcha latte, which was close. It's just
Okay.
green. So I will identify from here on out that, in fact, I got that from my home and
Okay.
put it in a Dunkin' Donuts,
Yes.
because I save these so that I can put ice in them in the summer and then walk around my yard and do stuff.
Trust is very important.
Oh, you are unbelievable today. Seriously.
Been a week. It's been a week.
Well, clearly. Do we need to talk about this?
No, it's just just a normal week. Just
We won't talk about how we always start the show before the show by talking about what we talk about, because that would be not nice.
it's just one of those
naughty.
weeks where everything is pecking at you. You're just sitting there trying to do what you're
This is-
supposed to do,
This is how I feel.
and everything is just pecking at you.
Well, there's moments in time where I realize, and I said this to you last week when we finished the show, is this is awful. I was going to say it's been a pecker of a week. But it didn't mean it like that, but I couldn't help it. It was coming out. So
in that context, it works.
Yes. And in the piping plover.
Yes, true.
Okay, we're all in the bird references. Yep. Okay, we have to move on.
Snowy owls and bald eagles and piping plovers.
Oh, my God. Yes, and Lou saw the biggest bald eagle of his life this weekend.
It was a
Huge.
prehistoric
Like
bald eagle.
Raptor-like. Yeah. Would you? No, you didn't call it raptor. You
Condor.
Condor.
Like a pterodactyl bald eagle.
It was going to morph into like a...
I saluted it.
You?
That's how big this thing was.
Oh, my God. Well, I'm glad. Did you get a picture?
No. I was driving.
Oh, God. You need to get pictures. No proof without pictures.
Okay.
Get them. So Lou and I are in a race.
Who am I proving something to, by the way?
What?
Why do I need proof? Who am I proving something to?
Me,
I saw the bald eagle.
I need to see this.
Yep.
We are in a race, you and I.
A race?
Yes.
To what?
We are in a race for the moose.
Oh, yeah.
We have been, ever since the last 2 weeks ago when we did that show, John and I are like...
Yep.
We're like out on the hunt.
So I declared that one of my bucket list things for the summer was to see an actual live moose.
Yes.
And you jumped on board.
Well, I've been on board,
yeah.
But now it's a competition because, so much more fun when there's someone else in the game. Because in the past 10 years, when we've been looking for the moose, which we have not found, but we have seen many evidence pieces of the moose, we've not found it. But now...
What would be an evidence piece of
Well, we see recent hoof prints, we see poop, we see, that kind of stuff, or we can hear something out in the distance, which we think is a moose, but we definitely...
So you and John had a conversation at some point in the conversation was, that's moose poop.
Yes. Okay. Oh, well, John's a very good poop identifier.
He's a scat
We can
guy?
do the difference between coyote poop, regular canine poop,
really,
fox poop. Oh,
John
yes.
is schooled in such things?
We are both now schooled. I have seen this. I'm totally into the wildlife. I can, in the rehab stuff and like knowing like bobcat poop compared to like the
really
North American not bobcat, but the little mountain lion differences and oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep, raccoon poop, not skunk poop.
Okay.
Considering we have 90% of the animals I just named in my backyard, I see a lot of poop.
It's true.
So therefore, I know poop.
All right.
So
I'm going to take your word for that one.
Yeah. Well, I can prove that to you. I could bring you some.
Conversation I don't want to have.
Oh my goodness. Okay, where were we going?
I still get, despite where things are in life, I still get to select which conversations I have and not have most of the time. Not always, most of the time.
Oh my goodness. Hello, Bill. How are you? What did he write? I can't see. I'm blind.
I haven't got into the actual program yet.
Oh, well, see. Oh, my God. You're fired.
I've been doing the actual program.
Fired.
I haven't got into monitoring the actual program yet.
Oh, look at, he says using old Dunkin' cups. He's, yeah. Yep, I am. I'm a Dunkin' cup reuser. Can't help it. I'm
Really? You keep...
facilitate. I don't use a lot of them. I just keep a couple, and I keep throwing them out and then like reusing like ones I've used for a couple days. I don't keep them forever.
There's a place on Plum Island called the Plum Island Kitchen, and they do these meals to go, and they're pretty good. And they come in these containers that aren't quite microwave safe, but they're nice little Tupperware-ish containers.
Which means they blow up in the microwave.
Yeah, well they'll kind of melt kind of thing a little bit. So.
Yes.
But I've got into hoarding those because they're nice little containers. And so I'll be handing out some, roasted vegetables in a, chicken pad thai container. Still has the price tag on it. I don't know. They're nice containers. It seems a shame to throw them away.
Oh, I want to see one of these. You need to bring one to me.
Okay.
All right. So, well,
plus I make a lot of pulled pork and things like that, so I want to put them in separate containers.
Because you don't share any of this with me, so apparently we're not that good of friends. So we went right down the chute. Sure, I give you like whiskey and, good fine things, and you give me what? A ration of piping plover poop.
I can do that if you want.
Oh, good, we can exchange poop.
I can go.
Okay, we have to.
Can you imagine if I went to get you a piping plover egg?
No, you can't do that.
Can you imagine the mugshot for that would be?
Oh, I would. Well, as much as I would enjoy seeing your mugshot, can you not do that?
There's almost nothing. On that where I live that is worse than that would be. I would be shunned forever.
Well, and I would shun you.
Yeah.
Because that's inappropriate. That's a good psychology term to say.
Inappropriate.
It's inappropriate.
Yeah.
So speaking of psychology,
it's only inappropriate if I do it, not think about it.
Oh my God.
I can think about it all I want.
By the way, this little back and forth between Lou and I this morning is so that we can have Lou have some release of tension.
Okay.
So he can get it all out.
You think that's what's going on? Yeah.
Yeah, or mine. we're both doing it.
Okay, good.
Because it's been a peck of a week.
It has.
Oh, and it just keeps coming. So anyway, so how was your sleep? Going back to our show from last week, how was your sleep?
Mixed.
So it didn't change, didn't help, didn't get worse? Just don't tell me if it got worse.
No, it didn't get worse.
Oh, good.
It just mixed. I had some good nights and I had some bad nights.
Oh. So I had an interesting, I don't know if you went back on the show last week and saw some of the comments. I had a couple of people ask about, does sleeping position matter?
Oh, yes.
And so although I can't, and I didn't go do research on this, so I can't say research says or that I know for sure, but I do know that anecdotally from other colleagues and sleep colleagues, like people that do the sleep work in their medical degrees or in sleep studies and sleep science, that right around the corner from me, I work with someone that I collaborate with, that they always recommend for people to sleep on their back.
Really?
So, but I've always been told to sleep on your side.
Yeah.
So I really don't know the exact answer to that, but from the psychology perspective, I do know from research that your sleep position won't matter in terms of your dreaming or your reparative like that. That has nothing to do with it. So if that was the question, because it wasn't specific to that, but it was just kind of a statement of like general question. So sleep position really won't have a matter on that, but sleep position may have an impact on how you fall asleep. If you're a person that sleeps kind of like on an angle upright, or if you're a side sleeper, if you're a stomach sleeper, certainly those types of things can change the way you fall asleep. Certainly if someone has an injury, I know, like I have a couple clients that have shoulder injuries. A friend out in California right now has a shoulder injury, and he, I would imagine, I know he's been in discomfort and pain. I would imagine that his sleep style has changed in terms of like laying in the bed or discomfort. I know from my kettlebell injury and my reaching for coffee to try not to get the cats off of me, I strained my shoulder again.
Oh, God.
So that definitely impacts me not sleeping on this side. So, yeah.
I can't
so
sleep
those
on
kinds of things change it.
I can't sleep on my back. I mama cass it. I choke on my own spit.
Oh, my God.
Is it too soon?
Well, we don't want that to happen.
I think the important part about a position is, find your comfortable position, because what kills sleep at the beginning is fidgeting for 20 minutes, trying to find a comfortable position.
But you're fidgeting because you have a comfort issue, but also a lot of times it's because your mind is wrestling with the comfort issue on other things too. So probably in their threat generating that your arm's about to fall off. I have some clients that go into I'm dying when their discomfort is there. Yeah. So, oh my gosh.
But find a position that works, and then you get rid of that whole struggle with discomfort.
Right. Which is why they made the side pillow. That long, cuddly pillow.
Yes.
So, anyway, hopefully I answered the question for the people that asked that last week.
I don't have one, but I wouldn't hate one. And I do sleep with a pillow between my legs.
You should ask your girlfriend to get you one.
No.
Nothing like setting up a relationship divide.
She's like sleeping with a toddler. She's like...
I hope she's not listening.
I've told her this, so
okay.
It's nothing she hasn't heard.
Okay.
It's like because she fidgets for like 25 minutes.
Oh. Yeah. And that's part of why you fidget, too, because when you have a fidgeter with you...
Nope. I lay on my left side and I'm out.
Oh, so you're a shunner.
Yep.
Excellent. All right.
No, the left side is facing her. There's a thing about left side and right side, too, for digestion and things like that.
Yes, there is. But that wasn't the question.
Right side is bad, left side is good.
So, so that's a different but yes. Yes, but yes.
Yep.
That wasn't the question, though. I wasn't answering that question.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Just
you digress.
Adding some anecdotal knowledge.
Thank you. Okay, so...
That was sarcastic as hell.
I know, but I was like... So moving along,
yes,
Lou. So you know what the happy topic of this week is?
What is it?
It's going to be, we're going to talk today about hypothyroidism.
Oh.
Ooh, exciting.
Yes.
And anxiety and how they connect together. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that it will spin off into 7,000 other things. But, people don't realize, well, probably if you've been listening to my show over the past year, you will. But medical conditions and psychology connect. Mm-hmm. And so hypothyroidism and anxiety and mood related disorders are very connected. Now, which comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Yes.
Right? It depends. Always my answer. It depends. But hypothyroidism, do you know what it is?
It's some hyperfunction of the thyroid.
Okay, well, that would be hyperthyroid.
Yeah.
So there's hyper and hypo. So
Oh,
today,
hypo.
so today,
So hyper is extra thyroid activity. Hypo is weakened thyroid
yes,
activity. Oh,
very
okay.
good.
Yeah.
Look at that. You're so smart.
Inferred from context.
So the thyroid, so the thyroid is
That
a
was
manager.
sarcastic too, by
I
the
know.
way.
I'm just ignoring you. I'm just going. Thanks for explaining your sarcasm to
Yeah.
me. So the
No, I was explaining your sarcasm to me. Your very good was very sarcastic.
Oh, well, I am, but I thought you were being sarcastic as well. So
no.
we're both being sarcastic.
No.
We must be in a punchy mood today. But the thyroid is like a very pretty little butterfly-shaped gland at the base of your neck, and it's in all mammals. And it regulates your hormones, and it regulates the hormones for metabolism. So when you're hyperthyroid, it's running on overtime, and when you're hypo, Hypo, it's running low. And so when you have hypothyroidism, there's a really great body of knowledge for people. So when you have hypo, it's, you see a lot of weight gain, blood cholesterol issues, blood pressure issues, sleep disorders. This is why I tied it into last week, because I was going to get there. We never got there.
Yep.
Like insomnia, but one of the biggest connectors is weight gain, which also is a connector to mood and depression and anxiety. But also, just as an aside, about 30%, like roughly almost 30%, like 29.8% is what the research says, is 30% of all anxiety disorders are related to some type of autoimmune thyroid condition. So that's pretty significant.
Yes.
Considering how much anxiety-based disorder we have here just in the U.S. But the research from the Journal of American Medical Association has reported that 28.9% or 29.8%, whichever it was, is that of all anxiety disorders are related to a thyroid or autoimmune thyroid condition. So what that says is...
And let me ask you, what would be your estimate of how many of those conditions, what percentage of those conditions are diagnosed?
What do you mean?
Well, in other words, I'm guessing a lot of people suffer from hypothyroidism without knowing they do.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Of that 30%?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, considering that 30%, if we just look at the actual statement, is that they must know that is.
Yeah.
But what I would say is outside of that, how many people suffer from either or and have no diagnosis on it is probably significant. So that means, given that 30% is there, I would pad in maybe another 15%, maybe, because look how many people have anxiety disorders.
Yep.
They think it's just anxiety. They have the list of symptoms that go with hypothyroid, but they're not treating that. They're treating the anxiety, or they're not treating it at all. Right. So, and they're not reporting. So you figure it's got to be pretty high. So I would imagine that that's pretty significant, just as a, educated guess.
Yep.
So it's really predominant in women and men, but heavy predominance in women, especially for menopausal women and perimenopausal women, because the thyroid hormonal metabolism changes, as you know.
Perimenopausal?
Yes.
What does that mean?
Oh, you don't? Oh my goodness.
No.
So you have pre-menopausal, right? So you have phases of menopause, right? So it doesn't just happen. So perimenopause, it's leading in, and postmenopause is leading out.
Oh, okay.
So you have the nice little arc.
Okay.
So
women are not quite menopausal yet, but
right. So the thyroid will change because the metabolism changes because it's hormonal, and so when the hormones in the body change, men have it as well, but it really impacts women a lot. And then a lot of times when I was saying like the autoimmune disorders, you see Hashimoto's thyroiditis. I have a friend that has that, and it's pretty significant. Like it really messes up like their feeling in their hands and their feet and their temperature regulation, because thyroid will also, because of the hormones and metabolism, will regulate sort of through the hypothalamus in the brain, that section where it's temperature, regulating eating, sleeping, all the places in the brain that control for your body functions like that. So, autoimmune disorders are highly impacted by the thyroid, and also they impact mental health because they offset like the GABA, which is your anxiety neurotransmitter, which is regulated up and down like the vagal nerve in the body, so that it controls for how you fight or flight, or how you see threat generation, how you see calm or peace. So when you have them combined, you can see a lot of struggle in people. So in my experience, in my practice, I see a lot of people who are treating only anxiety, and typically if I see the symptom list in my head of when they come in and they are saying like, I'm having insomnia, clearly there's a weight gain, or there's a blood pressure issue, or there's fluttering chest and cardiac issues, I have them go and have medical rule out first to find out if we're just dealing with anxiety, or if we're dealing with both, or if we're just dealing with hypothyroid, because I treat the psychology piece very differently if it's a thyroid base versus anxiety. And many times people just go for the anxiety because they don't think there's any medical, or they chalk it up to genetics or something else that is outside their control, when in fact there's a lot in their control and they don't realize it. So hypothyroid, so again, is that drop in the production of the thyroid hormone to be able to do your metabolism. And, of course, I'd love to say that there was some quick fix, and there are great conditioned medications that are out there, but like there's Levo-T, and then there's Synthroid, which has been around forever, which is like the really common medications for it. But here we go, because what I'm going to say is the top stuff to be able to maintain health for hypothyroid.
Sleep.
And
eating.
And
exercise. Yeah.
Right. So if you go to any of the WebMDs, or if you're going to do your Google search, or you want to say, oh, is she right? Your treatment options are going to be, the natural treatment options aren't just going to be, here's one or the other. It's going to say your best bet is your diet, 150 minutes a week of exercise, which people go, oh my God, that's 30 minutes a day. And the caveat to that is, which I always highlight with you, is the exercise. And in this case, people oftentimes, if they're overweight and they have hypothyroid, they can't exercise in the same way. But if you get outside and you're puttering around in the garden, you're walking, you're getting some sunlight, you're just moving in general for 30 minutes just to start, that actually can give you a little jump start in the thyroid. A little bit, not a lot, because oftentimes it's got a lot of damage. So the thyroid itself is getting activated with the cleansing from the exercise, or just movement itself. I mean, people who sit with the hypothyroid and sit sedentary don't it's all metabolism, it's all the body movement. Sure. So if you're not eating right for hypothyroid, which there's a totally, I always think it's a counterintuitive diet to people. And if you're not doing that with the exercise and good sleep hygiene and all those things, well, it's hard. And then if you add in the medication, you need to be doing those things, because once you add in medication like Synthroid or Levo-T or something like that, you have to be doing those things, because you have to be clearing it with water and exercise. Again, your kidneys and your liver and kidneys are ones the organs that get rid of and move that through your body. So you really need to be on that. So the diet is super important, because you would think, well, what do you think? What do you think you would be eating on a hypothyroid diet that would keep it healthy?
Wow.
Now, given that I've told you it's counterintuitive, so we'll see.
Yeah, that kind of threw me off now that it's counterintuitive. You'd want to, and I can't come up with a list right now, but you want to eat things that would aid your metabolism, wouldn't you?
Well, yes. So that was a very good answer without being specific.
Well, I'm trying to remember specific foods that help your metabolism. I can't come up with a list right now. But
well, so for a person that's not with a thyroid issue, right, in terms of hypo, right, you would think what we always talk about. So everything that we talk about, like eat strawberries and watermelon and berries and soy-based plant products and right, you think nuts and grains and things that are
whole
healthy,
foods,
right?
Yeah.
In hypothyroid, you still eat clean, but you don't eat those things.
Oh.
So you wouldn't eat, like, if you're a vegan, or you eat tempeh and soy and all those things, and that's out.
Really?
Yep. Raspberries, strawberries, kale, all the stuff that we normally say eat, you don't eat that. But it's really interesting because it leans heavily more towards like a Mediterranean fish diet. So, and the reason why is because iodine, zinc, and selenium, in no particular order, but particularly except for iodine, zinc, and selenium are the minerals and that are missing, and that are really needing to be kept up and level to keep metabolizing correctly. And so you get that
Can you supplement them, or does it?
You can.
But it doesn't work as well as natural.
Doesn't. Well, you can with selenium, because clearly there's because of hypothyroidism as a diagnosis, there's some really great products out there that go to your favorite vitamin shop or your favorite little compounding place and they have them. But selenium they'll have selenium and calcium, they'll have selenium and magnesium, to replace zinc as well. You can get that from a variety of things. But iodine, it's easier to get it from things like fish and shrimp, certainly. The downside of that is I have clients that overdo on shrimp and some of the shellfish, like oysters and stuff like that, and then they get gout. Oh. So there's a downside sometimes to eating certain things like that. And you can get, your zinc you can get from red meat. Also, over red meat you can get gout. So you have to be careful, because the diet that goes with hypothyroidism to control for your the thyroid that would produce the anxiety that comes with it, those food items can also trigger your anxiety. So it's a balance that's not typical of your regular everyday eating. So and you have to stay away from, like, I would recommend for most people, like, good mental health starts with a water-based food like sweet potato, something like quinoa. Not with hypothyroid, because it doesn't process it in the same way, because it doesn't have the ability to break it down in the same way.
Oh, I see. Yep.
So now, how does this relate? Because people are like, okay, she's talking about hypothyroidism only as a medical, but so what's the cause of anxiety? Well, there's a couple camps on this, but we think, generally speaking, that hypothyroidism causes anxiety because the mere fact that you have a physical ailment, right, that causes you. This is an ailment that you feel, like you can feel it, like it's always with you, that increases your anxiety because you're automatically like nervous, you're worried all the time about what's going on in your body, because it's giving you signals all the time. And also then there's the camp that says, well, there's anxiety underlying your body. You're fight and flight all the time, so you're in chronic stress, which lowers your immune system, which triggers the thyroid to stop functioning and processing as well, which then triggers hypothyroidism.
Oh, I see.
Right?
Yep.
So I'm of both camps, because I think that both can happen either separately or integratively. So I think that can happen, and it's hard to ever piece that out of like which one is doing whatever. Sometimes you have a really specific thing that will happen and you go, oh, that's probably what happened, but it's usually something, that's just not working. There's a lot of genetics involved. But just because someone has a genetic pull, and I can't stress this enough, just because someone has a genetic pull doesn't mean that you have to like throw your hands up and be like, well, it's genes and therefore, that's not the way we handle this. It's, you have control over something. I mean, as I've said before, I have genetic pool of being very obese in my family.
Yeah.
And if you can see me, I'm not obese, but I work at this because I know that I have to control for it. But I could just succumb to saying, well, I have this in my family, so it's going to be my plight. But that's not, so the same thing with hypothyroid. You can do, with any of these autoimmune things, to a certain degree, you have some control over what you do to make yourself the healthiest you can be, outside of then having your medication, which you can take, like Synthroid and Levo-T. And then there's some natural products as well that you can certainly do some research on, to go to your naturopath that's local to you to find out what to do to regulate. And that's usually really specific to your lifestyle. So someone that could work with you to build you a good diet, to build you a good way of like lifestyle, to manage that so you're metabolizing better, so that you don't have like the stressors that cause an increase in the autoimmune response that's not healthy.
All right, let's play WebMD for a minute.
Okay, let me clear my throat, wipe my nose, and
we'll play WebMD, and we'll convince everybody they have hypothyroidism.
Oh, for God's sake!
What are some of the indicators that this is part of your anxiety picture?
So, well, are you asking like what would make you differentiate between it?
Well, in other words, people are anxious, and a lot of people aren't thinking thyroid.
Right.
Right. What are some of are there some tells that you should start thinking and get a? I'm guessing you get a thyroid test.
So yeah,
Function of the
so
test.
so
Yeah.
so either tiredness
Mm-hmm.
or insomnia, so a sleep issue that's either all of a sudden, and it's not created by a situational stressor that like like a move or something that's all of a sudden then it's lasting, it won't stop.
Right.
You hadn't had it before. Weight gain, obviously, that's always the number one thing, is like an increase in weight within a really quick amount of time, or you've had long-term weight gain and you just haven't been able to lose it, and you've tried like
Right.
real healthy dieting. That would be a quick go get your thyroid level checked, your T4. I'm just thinking, I had a whole list in my head. Yeah, I always do that. I have the list and I get stuck on the stories in my head of like
Right.
people I know, and then I'm like, wait.
Yep.
Feeling of like that, that increased heart rate,
Mm-hmm.
or feeling like really, you get up and all of a sudden you have like that really weird, like dizzy feeling. That also can be indicative of it, because people who are used to saying I have anxiety attribute dizziness, quick nausea, or like that influx of like, oh, I didn't feel good, I have to sit for a second. They say, oh, that's my anxiety, when in fact it could be the thyroid upon standing, diastolic and systolic blood pressure moving up and down the chart is really the thyroid and the metabolism of your, just from the 4 inches to stand, the change.
Right.
Those would be the top ones. And obviously an increase in appetite, right? That's obviously one of them. An increase in, and or decrease. Sometimes, see, that's, I'm in my head going, well, you could have the decrease too, but that's more hyperthyroid, because people who are hyperthyroid lose weight.
Right.
And then temperature. So if all of a sudden
temperature regulation.
Here's when I have menopausal women, perimenopausal, postmenopausal, right? When I have menopausal women working with them, they report, the temperature fluctuation anyways, because it's hormone. Well, that's part of the thyroid. So a lot of times the hormone replacement is part of the reason why it gets regulated, is because they go on that. And sometimes it's because of the thyroid, sometimes it's adrenal, sometimes estrogen, whatever it is. But oftentimes I send them out for a thyroid check every so many months, just to make sure that, because their anxiety's there, they're feeling really cold, they're feeling really hot. So that's an indicator. And it's in men too, but men, as we've talked about, men typically will not report that as often, because they don't see it in this, they're not as either tuned in to their bodies in that way, or they just think of it as a fluctuation of whatever,
How often is your thyroid checked? In other words, is it ever checked automatically? I'm guessing when you go through autoimmune disorder diagnoses, thyroid's probably checked.
So when you do
normal blood work, is it checked?
So typically, your once a year annual physical with blood work should have that in it. If it doesn't, ask for it, for sure. Most primary people that I work with, including pediatricians, test that for their annual blood work run. Your typical CBC or, your chem lab normal. But if not, certainly say, I want to make sure I run a T4, my TSH count. And I'm just thinking, and when you have an autoimmune disorder already, and it's been diagnosed, it depends on what it is. Like if it's Hashimoto's and it's really bad, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, then you're checking it, especially in the beginning, to see how the medication sits.
Right.
You get the levels on it, so you're going to check it a little bit more often until it's regulated. You do the same thing with hyperthyroidism. As an aside, for the listeners, so I have 2 cats, Mia and Sophie, who both have hyperthyroidism, and so they're overactive, and so they're more water drinkers and eaters, and they never gain weight really, unless they're on like methimazole and things like that. But for them, there's a fantastic new little remedy called RadioCat, which they're both getting to have their thyroid removed through radioactive iodine. Goodbye, it's going in 2 weeks. They're both getting it, and it's over for that. And so I don't have to do medication anymore, because
the thyroid is taken non-surgically?
That's right.
Wow.
I get an injection, and And
You
they
can
stay
function
in
without a thyroid, or cats can, or
they can, and
Yeah.
and this gets rid of the little tumor cyst that's on the thyroid that causes hyperthyroid, and it's amazing.
Ah.
So, and there's another wing of the hospital. So, and you can have surgery like I have a friend that I grew up with that had his thyroid removed and stuff like that, but you have to be on medication.
Sure.
You have to be, he's super good about the medication. He's really good about his diet. He's, jacked physically. He knows how to take care of himself. And it's, he made this choice to do that because it was causing him great distress and it was causing him anxiety. And this was a better part of 20 years ago. So, so he's doing very well with that. But, there's lots of different options out there, but he was just like, I don't want to have to do this for the rest of my life with up-down regulation. Right. It's just, I just want it done. So it was easier that way. And it's also potential in some certain cases, his case, it was potential lead to cancer. So he took it. But that's not always where it goes. It's usually like it's something benign as a cyst or something that's pressing on it for hyperthyroid or for hypo. And then it's,
menopause aside, which is hormonal 52 pickup.
Oh boy! For all the female listeners out there that just heard that, there we go.
That aside, do thyroid problems emerge? Like at some point, you can, hey, all of a sudden I got a thyroid problem. Never had a problem before, but now I do.
You have to repeat that because I was just reading the comments. There's like a million comments I'm trying to read. Repeat your question to me, please. I'm sorry. I'm so rude.
Do thyroid problems emerge, or are they usually lifelong? In other words, at a certain point in your life, all of a sudden you have a thyroid problem.
Yes. Yeah. Usually they can. Well, so you can have like women in pregnancy can have a thyroid issue, right? Just like they can have a gestational diabetes issue.
That's another hormonal scramble, right?
Right. Well, so it's always going to be a hormonal scramble. So, and it's kids can come up through and not have any thyroid issue, and all of a sudden. Puberty hits, and then like I have a client that is a 17-year-old boy, and after he hit puberty, he didn't hit puberty technically. I don't consider he hit puberty yet because he's underdeveloped still, and so he hasn't really grown, and I don't know if he's going to, and it's because his thyroid. No one would ever detected that it was a problem, and then he hit puberty, and he started having signs of going through it, but then he didn't grow. Nothing moved, and so he has a specific condition that's related to that, and the name slips my mind right now, but it created him great distress because what happened to him is socially, coming up through as a young boy, a teenager who wants to play football or basketball and be social and all these things, he was socially shunned a lot and bullied. So it changed, so that changes the dynamic for this young man and his whole life course in his mind because his mental state around this changed. And he got into that mode of like, I'm not accepted, I'm not loved, I'm not.
And this all happened during the Lord of the Flies time in his life, which is middle school and early high school,
Right, well, everyone else is like really growing and flourishing in the way that is seen as socially acceptable, and he wasn't, so you have that happen. So, this is why...
Plus hierarchies are being developed, and there's a lot of pressure.
Exactly, so you have that. So to answer your question, to go back, you can have this you can have it just laying in wait. You can also have thyroid issues come up as strictly, I shouldn't say strictly because it's not just strictly, but as a byproduct of really poor diet and exercise plan or lack of plan. That's where I see that a heavy set of it is, no pun intended, is because of, there's been a lack of.
It can be a leading indicator or a trailing indicator of obesity, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And when I get people in my office, they're actually looking for getting out of that pattern of what they've been in of, okay, I know this is contributing. Whereas a lot of times when I get referrals from doctors' offices of people that say, hey, this isn't really a thyroid issue as the problem that we can treat. It's really a psych issue. And psych meaning not crazy, but psych as in this person thinks that they can't do anything to control their life, and they're really heavily weighted in their head that they're going to rely on, well, it's just genetics and this is who I am and I can't change it, which is not true at all. And there's plenty of people who have really great success with thyroid issues who can monitor both hyper and hypo to be regulated.
Bill says Lou should probably not eat a ham sandwich right before bed. I don't. I don't eat ham, A. Secondly, I'm careful about what I eat before I go to bed.
Right. So that's
Doesn't mean there won't be a glass of bourbon, which isn't your biggest friend. But...
Well, there's the heartburn on your right side, right?
No, I don't have a heartburn issue.
No, but you could.
Jesse says, get out of town. This I need to hear. I have Hashimoto's hypothyroidism.
Oh.
So, Jesse, we hit her wheelhouse.
Oh, oh my God. Jesse, I didn't know that about you. So well, hopefully this will help you. But so people like Jesse, who I can, since she's said that, she's a runner. So she definitely takes good care of herself in terms of like exercise, because I can attest, because I have run many miles with her.
All right. So she leads an active lifestyle with hypothyroidism.
Yes.
So she's battling that in terms of motivation and keeping herself active.
Well, she might say yes. I'm not sure if she struggles with the motivation, but I know that she's heavily motivated to do it because...
No, but I mean, the hypothyroidism isn't contributing to her work ethic. It's kind of working against her.
So, yeah. Jesse, if you're still listening, you would have to answer that. But I would say, knowing Jesse, it does not contribute to her work ethic in terms of, I think she just has a really strong mindset to be motivated and do, and she knows it makes her feel good, and it keeps her...
her work ethic is good in spite of that.
Yes, just right.
Yeah.
And I have another friend who has Hashimoto's, and she, I think, and she she does really well with it, and she works out all the time, and not work in a non-traditional way. She's a big walker, but she's an ice skater, so she's always moving like daily, and so she doesn't necessarily do what I would consider like what I do, which is I go for an hour or miles and just go. But she does all day long movement. And so on occasion, if she does different types of movement, or she does heavy lifting or things like that, and making her metabolism change on a day that would be abnormal, she'll definitely feel it. But she knows how to take care of it. She knows like hydration, certain foods, and then good rest. Yep. And then she resets for the next day because she knows how to reset her thyroid.
Gashouse Gorilla, who's my buddy Bruce, asked liver, and I'm guessing he's asking about the role of the liver in all this, or consequences or role of the liver in this whole condition.
So the liver and the kidneys are always your metabolizing like cleaners in the body. So as most people probably know. So the better control, or the better management, I shouldn't say control, the better management of the thyroid itself through either, if you choose to go the natural route, or through medication, exercise, and good eating, the better management you have of that, the better the liver and kidney will work, because they're working together in tandem. So the cleaner you keep your kidney and liver, the better the thyroid will work, and the lower the anxiety. So they work hand in hand. They talk to each other all the time. If there's so that's in the perfect world, because a lot of times there's other coexisting conditions. Mm-hmm. So we're talking clearly just hypothyroidism with anxiety today.
Well, it's like anywhere else in life, beware the single effect. There's always several things going on.
Well, and so it's really important that if you go see a doctor, that you're looking to rule out all the other things that are around it, so you can really identify what is. And that's why a blood test for this is good, because you can tell on the scale of
that relationship between kidney, liver, and thyroid. Does that work both ways, like for, say, obesity? And thyroid issues might lead to kidney and liver issues, or liver and kidney issues may contribute to thyroid issues.
Yes. Yeah. So and to make it really simple, though, for people, is that if you have a thyroid issue, just like if you have a diabetes issue, it's a lot of times people can relate because it's similar in terms of like the mental set around like understanding it. Those always impact the pancreas, your stress level, your pancreas, your liver, and your kidney, and so they change the functioning of it. The harder the thyroid is having to work to produce itself, to make your body maintain itself, or the harder the pancreas has to work to maintain itself in diabetes, the harder the kidneys and the liver get hit. Mm-hmm. And the harder that gets hit, the more damage that gets done, to a point where it can be irreparable. And so it's kind of like if you're a drinker and you're a chronic drinker, that's why people have cirrhosis of the liver. If you're not a chronic drinker, this has come up more recently, because people come to me and they're like, I have a diagnosis of cirrhosis of the liver, but I don't drink.
Yeah.
Right? Well, that's because oftentimes we've found that there's either thyroid, there's other things going on that can create the same condition because that particular hormonal gland is not functioning properly enough for the liver to talk back and forth to it, and so it starts to get damaged.
So the liver is overstressed.
So the liver or the kidney or both are overstressed. They're not cleaning out, and people are like, I'll just increase my water intake. Oh, great, that's fantastic, but at that point, your water intake isn't going to like repair. It's good. It's going to still clean out because the kidney and it's the functionality of the kidney and the liver that is really the thing there. And the more stress it has, both physically and emotionally, because it's emotionally being impacted, then the harder it's trying to work. And that's why I'm always like, you've got to have a better diet. You've got to have a better lifestyle of eating. You have to be more regimented around that so until you can get it managed so that you can regenerate it. Because once it gets to a certain point, you can maintain with medication, but unfortunately the mortality rate around that, you're already on a path.
Yeah.
Because the damage, if it gets to a certain point, it can only come back to a certain level, and then we're on a slide over time. And people will say, well, how much time? It depends. It depends on the person. It depends on the weight. It depends on the heart condition. It depends on what are the coexisting conditions with it. And it also depends on the emotional state of the person and how their mindset is either positive or negative, how they see life, how they see the world through their eyes, and being happy, healthy, productive, forward moving, looking forward to purpose and things like that. So it's really dependent. Because
people who are manufacturing stress through mindset are taxing these systems more and more.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's the connection for what, there's the integrative medical piece that I practice, is that you can't really separate the mind and the body out because they work together all the time in all these conditions. Give me any condition, I'm going to tell you it works with blah, blah, blah part of the brain for your emotional mindset, and that impacts it.
All right, let me ask you this again with all of this now, because I'm concerned about its ability to sneak by people. In other words, if you have liver dysfunction, if you have kidney dysfunction, if you have thyroid dysfunction, what are the odds that that's going to go undiagnosed for a lot of times? We already said that most people will test for thyroid function in your annual blood test.
If you go.
If you go, yeah.
Right. So, liver conditions and any of those conditions can go unnoticed because quite honestly, many people don't go to the doctor.
Yeah.
Men notoriously are less likely to go to the doctor than females. Although the trend has gotten better, and research backs that up, the trend has gotten better that men are more likely to seek out now more than 20 years ago, just because it's become more socially acceptable, and for a variety of reasons, and also for mental health treatment. But liver conditions, and I have, and this is men, I have multiple men clients over the years that have come in with X, Y, and Z, and I've sent them off to say, in their 60s, or near their retirement age, or somewhere in their 50s and 60s, and said, because something feels off, and we're working on the mental health piece, and something still feels off, and I'm like, we're going to do this, we're going to go check this, and it comes back with like, oh, my kidney's not functioning to capacity, or my liver's blah blah blah, or something like that, or my pancreas, or I'm diabetic, or I'm a lot of pre-diabetes, which also relates.
So not a lot of that would be looked at in a typical yearly examination blood test cycle.
Not typically.
Yeah.
No, because you have to.
Unless you presented symptoms to the GP.
Presenting a symptom that says, I'm having this, typically.
Something that tipped off the GP to say, let's test for this.
So, in your standard blood run, your standard blood panel, oftentimes, if there's something that's gone awry, you will pick up, it could be a low potassium or a high potassium or sodium level, or, your bun could be off, or,
So there'll be an indicator in the blood that might prompt somebody to ask a question.
Right. About another function. There could be something that looks like, because some of the blood will come back, and there's certain parts of your test that you get on the yearly that show for, like, you could have infection in your blood, and it will show for a high count, or, in the T cells, or, things like that. But it wouldn't necessarily be showing up as a symptom in you, but it's in the blood work.
Right.
But you wouldn't be coming in saying, oh, I'm having this weird thing in my kidney, because unless you have kidney stones.
Yeah.
That you're passing,
you'll talk about it.
Then you'll be like, I can't, function, or something like that. And liver conditions, oftentimes go unnoticed, without either blood work or specific blood work draw to show that there's some kind of elevation in the enzymes in the liver that are off. And, we get good research from people like in addiction work, because in addiction work, when people overdose or they're going into detox and rehab facilities, there's blood draws that are done, and you can see a lot of that material comes up, and we see and get a lot of information around what happens for people who are in addiction from particularly alcohol or any of the things, but alcohol in particular.
It sounded like you just said that liver conditions can exist without symptoms.
Yes.
You might not be prompted.
I mean, they'll exist, but you just don't know it.
Right.
Yeah.
I
mean, liver cancer is often found in people that
no symptoms.
They're in the end stages and they don't even know.
Yeah. Wow.
Because so caveat to that. In my experience with colleagues that treat cancers, for instance, in this, is that when they diagnose it, then the patient often can go back and say, oh yeah, a year ago I had blood in my stool, but I didn't come in. Or I lost 20 pounds and I just didn't think anything of it because I was exercising. They don't connect, but all of a sudden, now that's there, it's like, oh, here were the symptoms. They lined up, but they didn't realize that was there.
Right.
So, and how do you prevent for that? Well, it's not, okay, so we don't want to create hypochondriacal people that are everything's,
right.
something. But if you go to your yearly, make sure that you ask, can I have my thyroid tested? Can we just make sure we're testing for, if you're especially older, if you're in your 50s and above, and typically, most primary care physicians that are really good will do at least once every 2 to 3 years, especially once people are getting older, they'll do a liver function, they'll do an enzyme test. I mean, they'll do that. Yeah. But if they don't, and they're kind of old school, ask for it. I'm a big proponent of advocate for yourself, and if a doctor doesn't like that, find a new one.
Yeah.
So, because oftentimes doctors don't like you to ask them to do things because they think, they know. And that's fine that they do, but if you can't ask for something and get it, then it's not a good match, maybe.
So, sleep, diet, exercise
Yep.
are good solutions for most everything, including this.
Yes.
If you do need treatment for hypothyroidism, can you regain? Is that just maintenance at that point, or can you get an improvement in your?
So you can get an improvement in your thyroid if you go the route of doing those things that you just said that I've said, and if you get on you can get on medication that's made for it, Levo-T or Synthroid, which has been around forever, and it works pretty well. If you do all the combination of the above, certainly you can get a better handle on it. And I always recommend people to get a good endocrinologist. So go to your primary care if you need to, just to get the workup, or if you want to know, is this my anxiety, or is this my thyroid, or is this both? Yep. But then get a referral to an endocrinologist. And oftentimes if you don't have insurance that covers that, there's ways to find, because sometimes you have to get a specialist and all this, referrals. Most of the time you can get into one, and then have someone, especially if you're menopausal for women, you should have someone following that at least in the initial first years. If you have symptoms, not everyone has to do that, but certainly if you have a concern, or if you have someone in your family that's had a thyroid issue,
yep.
that would be the route I would go, so that you can maintain that. There's also holistic and natural ways to remedy, to maintain, manage. It's also dependent on how badly damaged the thyroid is, which you have to obviously go to an endocrinologist or to your primary to see how much farther down the route that is. But there's other ways to handle it, and people do it very successfully. And again, it always goes back to, I can't make guarantees. It depends. It depends
right.
on you and where you're at, and what your blood pressure is, what your cholesterol is, what your weight is.
What other factors?
What are your specific factors to be able to manage that? And by the way, when you're not managing it, you're creating a lot of anxiety. The anxiety is then pushing on the problem itself that's physical, which is manifesting it more, which is dropping your immune system and becoming more of an autoimmune issue, which sets you up for other things that could come.
Wow. So it's cyclical.
Yep.
Spiral.
Yep.
If you if these don't show up in liver problems, thyroid problems, if they don't show up in blood work specifically, how do you get those tested? What does a thyroid test consist of? What does the liver test consist of?
So, well, the main thing is you're going to pick it up unless it's something really, really under the radar. That's something that's there. It's going to come in blood work.
Mm-hmm.
It will show up in the blood work. So if it doesn't, and they're still suspecting something, CT scans, ultrasounds of liver or the thyroid, but typically of the liver and kidney, just to see, because then it could be something that's related to not the thyroid. It could be a tumor in the kidney or the liver. It could be sepsis. I'm thinking of all the different things I've had in my career. It could be a little sepsis because there's been a leak, and it's backing up into the body, and the person's actually dying. Rare, but you asked. You asked.
Yep.
And that's the other thing is when there's symptoms like that, when people do detect, unfortunately, and if that's happening to you, people get scared. Anxiety goes up, so they get really scared. Their anxiety goes up more, and they avoid going to the doctors because they're afraid of hearing what's going to happen. And I encourage people, don't do that, because there's so much good assistance and help. And then it's what you do proactively. Don't sit on it and sit there thinking, oh well, it'll be okay, or I just don't want to know, and so therefore I'll avoid. Because by the time that happens and you actually get there, if you do that, this is when I see people with, they're on 10 medications, and it's like, oh, we've got a long road. Yeah. Which I'm totally fine with in terms of I help lots of people with that, and but it's a longer road. Right. Because you procrastinate and because you're afraid, because you're threat generating. Yeah. Because your anxiety's up. But
I'm not a big doctor guy, so I have issues with that.
Right. Well, and you, like many millions of people, have that, and it's you don't want to hear what you don't want to hear.
Threat generating.
Yeah, you're threat generating.
What threat generation? Yeah,
exactly.
There's a bear in the back of the doctor's cave.
There you go. There you go. So, so hopefully this was helpful for people. I was going to talk a little bit more about the iodine, zinc, and selenium, but certainly you can certainly talk to your doctors about it. Find someone holistic about it.
We'll be here next week.
And will we?
Yes. I don't know. Will we?
I don't know. The piping plovers are going to come take Lou away. No. In his sleep. They're going to they're going to strafe you.
It's more likely to happen the other way than that way, but
stop with the threatening of the piping plovers. Seriously.
I'm just having fun because I know it would irk my neighbors to no end.
You're brutal. We have to talk off air about this problem.
What problem?
The problem that everyone's hearing.
Stir the pot.
Stir the pot. So everyone have a fantastic week. I appreciate the comments today, and you guys, if you have any questions or certainly, comments, I love most of the time. Certainly reach out, and then it always shapes my shows for the weeks to come, and it's lots of fun. And you guys have a fantastic week.
See you next week.
See you next week.